Today we're going to talk about how to tell the difference between intuition or what is a fear or trauma-based response. And there are two times in my life where I've had almost the exact same physical experience, but it was with very different meanings and very different outcomes. I remember I was in about fourth grade, and we went to this theme park called Six Flags Magic Mountain, and we were about to get on this roller coaster. It was a huge one. I had never been on it before, and I just remember getting this very particular feeling in my stomach, sort of like a nausea, a little bit of a tightening in my shoulders. It was a very particular physical sensation. And I remember thinking, even back then, I don't know, is this roller coaster going to go off of the rails? Should I say no and not step foot on this roller coaster? And so I went on the roller coaster anyway. I was with friends. I wanted to have a good time. The thought was pretty fleeting and we were just about to get on. And guess what? The roller coaster ride was fine. It was a good time. I remember not even getting sick on the roller coaster, and I was ultimately glad that I went. And then I remember years and years later, this was right out of college for me, I was interviewing for a job, a role with a nonprofit organization. And the interviewer was asking me questions. There was nothing obviously wrong, but there's just something about the tone of some of the questions and the wording. And all of a sudden, I got that same kind of clinchy feeling in my stomach, tightness in my shoulders, and like a slight nausea feeling. And afterwards, I sat and reflected, and I was like, there's just something that rubbed me the wrong way about this interview. I'm interviewing for other jobs. I don't think I'm going to continue on with this one. And it was maybe a year or so later, I actually ended up running into the person who got that position, the nonprofit world at that time in LA. It's big, but in some ways it's small. And so I met her at a conference or something, and she was very open about the fact that the position was awful. She was overworked, she was underpaid, she was micromanaged. The atmosphere of the company was, we're mission driven, and so you should be willing to do anything and work all hours. And I said, woo, I am glad that I did not go with that. So similar sensations showed up in the body each time. I had sort of a similar physical and mental experience, but with the roller coaster, it ended up just being fine. And it was more of a fear-based response based on my other experiences of trying new things like roller coasters and it being scary and challenging. And the other one did turn out to be a little bit more along the lines of intuition. And so we're going to talk about how you can distinguish between the two in your own life. If you are new here, my name is Lauren Ludlow. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, a licensed psychotherapist who specializes in somatic therapy, EMDR, and couples work for clients who find that they are feeling really stuck in patterns of overwhelm, anxiety, disconnection, and trying to do and be it all, and really want to pursue a life of more freedom, more ease, stepping out of survival mode, and establishing deeper, more authentic connections. Have you ever been standing right on the edge of something new, a new job opportunity, a new relationship, a big decision, or a big shift? And as you're considering what to do, your heart starts racing, your muscles start tensing, you feel all sorts of butterflies in your stomach, and they are not the pleasant kind. And it's like your whole body is saying, nope, 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 no, no, thank you. But it can be hard to tell exactly what that no really means. Is it your intuition, your inner compass, your wisdom trying to shift you in the direction of what's going to be right or most aligned for you, and operating at this less than conscious level where you can't clearly identify the why, but there's some wisdom coming up right now? Or is this a fear or trauma-based response where in reality, there are a lot of choices in the situation that could be okay or just fine, but there's something about the situation that is tapping into or activating trauma, adverse experiences, or painful memories that are stored in the body? If you've ever wondered, how am I supposed to distinguish between the two, you are not alone. But to clarify something first, having strong reactions, strong emotional reactions, strong physical reactions to situations is not a flaw. It does not mean that there is something wrong with you. It means that your nervous system is really doing its primary job, because your nervous system's primary job is to protect you and keep you safe. So your nervous system is constantly absorbing information, learning patterns, trying to draw conclusions based on past experiences so that your nervous system can apply it to your future and keep you safe and protected from things that have been threatening or frightening or maybe even caused you harm in the past. So having these strong reactions does not mean that there is something wrong with you in and of itself. It's your nervous system's protective mechanisms kicking in. And even when your emotions or those physical sensations and reactions are coming from a place that is rooted in fear or trauma or past adverse experiences, it still doesn't mean that something dysfunctional is going on. Your body is wise. So usually when we're having these strong fear or trauma-based reactions, it's because there is something about this current situation that reminds us of a past challenging, traumatic, or fearful experience. It doesn't mean that this current situation is scary or threatening in and of itself, but there is something about the quality of this situation, the circumstances, the setting, something is reminding your survival mind and the rest of your nervous system of a past challenging or traumatic experience. So one of the first ways that we can start to kind of disentangle intuition from fear or trauma-based responses is by asking this question and reflecting on this question. When have I felt like this before? When have I experienced something similar? When I notice these sensations in my body, what is it really reminding me of? Taking a moment to be able to reflect and really think about, is this a situation from the past that's actually relevant to the current situation? Or is it one that's totally different, but the current situation is reminding me of it, can help us to gain so much clarity. For example, let's say the decision that you're trying to make is around a new potential relationship, and you start to get this feeling inside, this emotional reaction, these sensations in your body. And when you reflect, you recognize, ooh, you know what felt just like this? That time when I was 15 years old and it was my first boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, and they treated me absolutely awfully, right? And because I was so young, I didn't know how to get out of the situation. I didn't really have any adults to talk to about it, and I just felt really, really stuck, and I wished I'd never gotten into it. That might be a situation where your life is very different now. You're an adult maybe. You have a support system. You have more, relational experience, and maybe it's the way that the person dresses, or maybe it's the way that they asked you out that kind of reminds you of what was going on when you were 14 or 15. And so you're in a completely different situation. And so that might be more on the fear or trauma-based side of things. But if you reflect and you recognize, you know what this is reminding me of, you know what this feels like? This feels like my past 3 relationships. There's something about these first couple dates. Maybe it was the way that the person spoke to you. Maybe it was the way that they engaged with you. Maybe it's something about the texting or the communication that reminds you, oh, this is like my past 3 dating relationships really recently. And it's this communication pattern. Well, that might be more intuition or wisdom coming up because it's recent relevant experiences, right? So if you can take a moment and ask yourself, when have I felt like this before? What are these sensations in my body reminding me of? You can start to differentiate between, is this something from the past, a totally different situation, a totally different setting, a totally different scenario, but there's just something going on that reminds me of it, versus, oh no, I'm picking up on a relevant, current, or very near past pattern here. And that is something that I need to consider as I'm making this choice. Another way to start to tell the difference between what is intuition and what is a trauma or fear-based response is urgency. So oftentimes fear or trauma-based responses, they have a lot of urgency to them. You need to make the decision now. You need to react now. You need to get out now, or else you're going to be stuck. There is both maybe the emotional experience of urgency, but the physical experience of urgency, like your whole body is needing to tense up or get really activated and get ready to act right now, where intuition might not come with as much much urgency, or wisdom might not come with as much urgency. And sometimes you're in a situation where your reaction's a blend of the two, but really taking a moment to slow down, right? And say, okay, can I pause? Can I delay this decision a little bit? Can I take my time with this? It'll allow some of that urgency to fade away, and then you can kind of sort through and see what is wisdom or what is intuition. Because fear and trauma-based responses, they make us feel like there's this clock present in it's ticking, ticking, ticking down, even if there's no imminent immediate threat or issue or catastrophe that's going to happen if you don't take an action or make a decision right now. And this is where it really pays off to become an expert on your own nervous system. I wonder if you're aware already of what intuition and wisdom feels like in your body in terms of sensations, and what fear or trauma-based responses feel like in your body in terms of sensations. For a lot of us, there are a lot of emotional experiences that can feel very similar in the body. For example, excitement and fear. Both can come with an elevated heart rate, maybe sweaty palms, maybe some butterflies in the stomach, but there are some small distinct differences. For example, whether those sensations are feeling pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, or something else. You can ask yourself this question to even discern between intuition versus fear or trauma-based responses. When you're noticing the sensations that are coming up in the body, are they pleasant? Are they unpleasant? Are they neutral? Or are they something else? Maybe a blend of the pleasant or the unpleasant. Really getting into the quality of that somatic experience can help us to start to tell the difference between the two, or do a better job of differentiating between the two. So become an expert on your nervous system in this area. Notice moments when you're sure that intuition or wisdom's coming up for you. Notice a moment where you find a solution, you're working on a project and you have a breakthrough. Notice moments where you're sharing maybe some wisdom or insight with a friend, and notice what's going on inside of the body. What are the sensations that are connected with that for you? And then notice where when you're in moments where maybe fear is coming up, or concern, or some worry. Notice what's going on inside of your body, and then you have some cues for knowing when maybe it is that fear or trauma-based response, or that wisdom and insight and intuition-based response. Even when intuition and wisdom are guiding you in the direction of an uncomfortable decision, something that's a little scary or frightening or challenging, or it's going to be tough for a while to get you to something better, you still will likely experience some of those cues that are associated with clarity, that are associated with insight for you, and maybe a little bit less of that urgency. There'll be clues there. Here are 5 steps you can take if you find that you are in the thick of it right now. You are in the middle of a time of needing to discern between your intuition or fear and trauma-based responses. The first one is taking a moment to pause and regulate. Remember what we said about urgency? Well, if you can take a pause, whether it's a 5-minute pause or a 1-day pause, and do some things that are regulating and soothing for your nervous system, you're going to be able to make your best or better decisions than when your nervous system is highly activated. When our nervous systems are like 10 out of 10 activated, then it's really our survival mind, that brainstem and that whole area of our mind that is taking over. That part of the mind moves really, really fast, and its primary job is to keep us safe, and it's really good at operating based on old patterns. But if you take a moment to pause and regulate, we give the other parts of our mind a chance to kind of come online and be more a part of the decision. Our limbic system and the emotional pathways of the brain, along with our executive, functioning, logical mind, that frontal cortex and the cortices and different areas of the brain that are associated with judgment and really good logical thinking. And regulation can look different for many, many people. For some people, that'll look like taking some time to do some breath work and some intentional breathing. For others, it'll look like taking some time to do some movement. Get outside, walk, Dance, move the body, shake, get those muscles, releasing some of that tension and some of that adrenaline. For other people, it could look like engaging in some mindfulness, like doing a task like cooking very slowly and intentionally and taking time to observe sights and sounds and smells. I have a video and some other resources on different ways that you can soothe and regulate your nervous system to give you some ideas to try. So check it out in the description below. After that, number 2, see if you can name the sensations that are showing up in the body and where they are showing up in the body. So you can say, oh, my jaw is clenching. My chest feels open and relaxed. My stomach feels a tingle and butterflies. My feet feel solid and calm and connected to the ground, right? Notice different parts of the body and the sensations that are going on in that part of the body. And go back to that question of, is this sensation pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, or just totally something else? By noticing the quality of the sensations and the types of sensations, you can use your knowledge of your own body, your own nervous system, start to differentiate, okay, if I'm feeling a lot of pleasant, calm, grounded, rooted, clear sorts of sensations, this might be more so intuition or wisdom, even if they're mixed in with some activated or distressing sensations, because maybe those are just coming from the fact that you're thinking about making a big choice. But if you, on the other side, are feeling a lot of sensations of tension, distress, unpleasant sensations, clenching, a lot of that urgency, that go, 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 go feeling in the body, that might be a sign that we're engaging more of a fear or trauma-based response, and we might need some more time to soothe before we make our clearest or best decisions. Number 3, ask yourself that question, is this familiar, or what about this is familiar? Have I felt this before? If the intensity of the reaction feels disproportionate to the situation, if you're having a really big emotional and physical reaction and it seems like, wow, this is way bigger than what this situation should be bringing up for me, knowing what it is, well, then sometimes that's the body reacting based off of past challenges, traumas, or adverse experiences. So asking yourself, have I felt that before, can help you to get some clarity, but can also bring us back to what we were talking about before in terms of identifying, are we going off of old past patterns that are no longer relevant to our current life? Or are we operating off of recent information that we really need to consider? Number 4, and this is one of the most important steps, see if you can test some actions, test some theories over time. See if you can slow down the process and bit by bit test out, is this intuition, is this a fear-based response or trauma-based response, and what choice do I want to make here? Oftentimes we feel like we must make these big, sweeping choices all at once. But there can be different pathways and options that look like breaking down the choice into smaller choices, breaking down the big action into smaller actions to allow yourself time to experiment and see if something is right for you, and if a certain choice is in alignment with your intuition, or if that choice is more in alignment with fear or a trauma-based response. For example, let's say that the big decision you're considering is wanting to move to a new city, and there's nothing imminently urgently saying that you have to make the decision in the next week. Can we slow the decision down where you don't have to know if you want to move to this city and know it immediately as a yes or no decision? Could you possibly go visit the city for a couple weeks and try to visit it as if you were living there and see what it's like for you and get some information from that? If your big decision is you want to be more open and vulnerable in your relationships, and there's just some big reactions coming up to that, can we break that down into some smaller steps and experiment with those smaller steps? For example, starting with inviting a friend that you have a pretty high level of trust with out for coffee and setting the intention, I'm going to be 5% more vulnerable during this coffee than I would normally. I'm going to share 5% more than I would usually share about what's going on with me personally or my feelings. And then check in with yourself afterwards. If it's really intuition showing up, again, you'll be able to sense or notice more clarity, more of a sense of insight, more of a sense of direction. You'll be more capable of breaking down these big choices into smaller ones, or these big decisions into smaller bits of the decision. Where if it's more of a fear or trauma-based response, that urgency tends to show up. There might be more confusion. Or you'll notice as you take those steps, ooh, this just does not feel aligned for me. This is not taking me in the direction that I want to go in. And then last but not least, try a somatic check-in. And this can look like pausing, finding a quiet and calm space for a moment. You can put your hand on your chest and another one on your stomach, both hands on your stomach, both hands on your chest, hands on your shoulder, just something that feels like a nurturing way of connecting with yourself. Tune into your body and just ask yourself, what feels true right now? What feels protective? What feels reactive? What feels like truth? See what thoughts come up as you notice what goes on inside the body. See what insights come up as you notice what goes on inside of the body. See if there's any clarity or anything new that can come up just from trying this practice. Don't rush the answer. Just let it rise up and take your time. This work is not about becoming perfectly intuitive or totally free from fear and trauma. It's really about learning your nervous system so that you can pay attention to your inner wisdom and also pay attention to your protective patterns and make very intentional choices while considering both inner wisdom and both what's coming from a place of protection. Sometimes the two get tangled up, but that is okay. It is part of our human nature. But with time and practice, you can learn your own physical or somatic cues. You can learn the different qualities of sensations or thoughts or urgency when it comes to the differences between the two. And some of these practices can become second nature so that you feel much more empowered to do that discerning. Lastly, you do not have to do this work alone. This is tough stuff. Everything from engaging in mind practices like yoga, meditation, or breath work, or engaging in therapy like somatic therapy, EMDR, or other forms that help you to reprocess traumatic or adverse experiences, but also get to know your nervous system, or even finding friends, family, community, and safe spaces where other people can help you to understand and talk with you through what is my wisdom and what are protective patterns. These can all be so helpful along your journey. So I wish you all good things as you learn to do more of this discerning. Make sure to like or subscribe if you want more of this type of content, and check out the resources in the description below. Thank you.